Ladies and gentlemen, this is a story that came out in Vanguard. We enjoy sex, but contraceptives, because they are man made, trouble Nigerian women. So these Nigerian women try to avoid these contraceptives from Western nations. And let me just give you a piece of advice, Africa. Never take or listen to the advice of people from Western nations that are struggling to have their own babies, and they come to tell you not to have babies. The next time they do that, just look at their birth rate and ignore their advice. And don't take their medicine either, because obviously what they're doing is not working if they're struggling with a low birth rate. They are not the ones to go around the world and give anybody advice at all. Family planning enables couples delay early childbearing and to avoid unplanned pregnancy. It is estimated that up to 1/3 of childbirth related deaths and injuries could be prevented if women had good access to contraceptives. Family planning, don't take family planning advice from Western nations that have low birth rates. Family planning also has the potential to reduce infant mortality, prevent HIV. Contraceptives do not prevent HIV. Empower people, enhance education, reduce adolescent pregnancies, and slow population growth. And why does population growth have to be slowed? Because y'all not having babies? That's not a good reason. Family planning also allow women to recover from traumatic physical and psychological experience without the additional worry of becoming pregnant again before they're ready. Again, this is coming from people that can't get pregnant, y'all. However, Nigeria has a young population compared to the advanced countries of the world. Even as experts say, more use of contraceptives by women of childbearing age would reduce increasing populations of country amid a high fertility rate of over 5%. Findings show that, among other factors, rapid population growth has affected the quality of life and made achievement of socio-economic development goals difficult. No, Western nations going in there and tampering and always trying to butt in everything that's going on in African countries have done that to them socio-economically. It is nothing. It has nothing to do with childbirth, y'all. The Western nations have done this to them by going in there trying to dictate what should be done in Africa. That's what caused their socio-economic situation there today. Don't let them try to make you believe that has something to do with childbirth. It doesn't. And you can tell somebody from a Western nation wrote this bullshit, and they expect you to believe it. Again, when people come to Africa talking to you about birth rate and population growth, take a look at the country that that person comes from and look at their birth rate. And based on that, you should not listen to them. They done screwed up themselves. Now they're trying to screw Africa up too. Where still many Nigerian women are opposed to family planning. Good. And I hope they stay opposed to it, because family planning has done no good to anyone on this earth. And again, if you are struggling to have babies from a Western nation, you are the last person that should be giving out advice about childbirth. You're at this point, you ain't even qualified to do so. Sunday Vanguard reports that despite efforts in the last 4 decades to achieve rapid economic development and the fact that knowledge of Nigerians and attitudes towards family planning has improved in the last 2 decades, contraceptive use in the country remains generally poor. Good. Don't use Western nations' contraceptives. In 2012, Nigerian leaders from 192 other countries gathered in London and made the famous Family Planning 2020 commitment. The commitment was that by 2020, 120 million more women and girls in 69 of at least developed countries would have voluntary access to contraceptives and important about planning their families. Let me just stop right there. I can't read this nonsense. These folks that come from Western nations are not qualified to tell you about planning a family when they can't even have a baby and plan their own. Africa, name one thing that the Western nations have brought you that made a difference in Africa as far as wealth is concerned. They haven't. They're only there raping out the resources and at the same time want to dictate what you should be doing. Take a look at these Western nations. They are failing. They are failing. They are failing economically. They are failing in their own family planning. And they are not the pillars of morality. In fact, they're probably the most immoral countries on the face of the earth. They're not in any position to tell you whether you should have a baby or not. They are not in any position to be dictating to you on anything regarding life on this earth. They barely got control over their own lives. Look at how they treat the Black populations in their countries. And that should tell you whether or not you should be listening to these people. And I'm telling you, Africa, if you're able to have babies, keep having them. See, this is what's bothering the hell out of them. Your ability to be able to give birth with ease while they go to fertility clinics and their men go to all kinds of specialists over their low sperm count, but they think they are the ones that should be telling everybody what to do. So keep doing everything the African way because apparently it's working. And never mind them calling you poor. You're not a poor nation. You're not a poor continent. You wouldn't be poor if it wasn't for the Western nations coming there and taking everything out of the land. You know, I find it very ironic how the resources were given to the dark people of the earth, and the more paler people were given nothing. There's a reason why that happened. There's a reason. You look at Africa, it has tons of resources, and the entire continent is sitting on oil. The whole thing. Even that part that they call the Middle East, that's all Africa. It just some Brits went in there and renamed it. The whole thing is Africa. The whole thing is Africa. Despite all of the criticism they make of Africa, they sure can't keep their asses out of it. They can't live without Africa. If Africa cut them off right now, they would fall. So I don't listen to their criticism of Africa and their mud huts and all that crap. That's garbage. What do you have? You have no resources. You have to keep going to the dark continent over and over and over for your resources. And the beautiful part is they haven't ran out of resources yet. That is a continent that was truly blessed by the Most High, while your continents sit on a pile of nothing, cursed, judged, filled with sin. And you think that the African people should be listening to you when it comes down to childbirth. I tell you what, you clean up your backyard and fix your childbirth situation before you go around this planet telling everybody else what to do. Lead by example, which you have done very poorly with. And as for my brothers and sisters on the continent, you keep giving birth and do what you need to do and ignore these people that have failed at running their own nations and struggling because a government is shut down and EU situations, and they are struggling to employ people in these Western nations. They are struggling all of it. Just pick up a paper and just read what's going on in Western nations. And then think twice about listening to these people. My favorite is the Wall Street Journal. You'll see how in business they'll lose $200 million in a quarter, $1 billion in 6 months, or they will have a steady decline all the way around in sales in their companies. They're not in any position to tell you anything. They just think they are. They're conditioned to believe a lot of falsehoods about themselves. That's not even true. So, Nigerian women, stay away from Western nation contraceptives. If it is your thing to give birth, then you give birth. If anything, they should be taking advice from you since Africa is so fertile and they're not. But please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen, about these Western nations going in there with their contraceptives for the African in Nigeria, the African women. Please leave Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.